Welcome back to the Gold Newsletter channel. Welcome back here where we discuss companies, we interview company CEOs, and of course, we share breaking news. This is what we're doing this morning because we'll be joined by Tara Christie of Banyan Gold. But first, my name is Kai Hoffmann. I'm the @JR Mining guy on Twitter and the CEO of the SOAR Financial Group. And if you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button so you can get those breaking news straight to your screen, straight to your phone. And especially when you turn that bell icon on as well, it sends you a nice push message. So you'll always be up to date when we interview companies. We try to do that as close to news dissemination as possible. This time we have a doozy for you because I mentioned it's Tara Christie from Banyan Gold, and the company just released metallurgical test results, something that's really dear to my heart because of met work, as we call it in short, can make or break a project. Because if you find out that you can't recover the gold in a economic fashion, then what's the point of drilling and literally blowing your brains out doing so? So, with that colorful language, I'm going to lead. I'm going to lead over to our good friend here, Tara Christie, on the channel. But before we discuss the Met results, maybe you've tuned in for the first time to this channel. I want Tara to quickly introduce Banyan in like 60 seconds, and then refer everybody else to the channel for more details. Tara, take it away. Intro Banyan real quick first, please.
Thanks, Kai. So Banyan is advancing our AurMac project, which has a 6.2 million ounce inferred gold resource, 0.61 grams per ton gold in Canada's Yukon Territory. And what is this really exciting new belt called the Tombstone Gold Belt, where we're making new discoveries. We made our discovery in 2019. We have a very large deposit now. Really pleased with these Met results because, as you talked about, that's a super important part of projects that are not just resources but are able to move forward into development. Really also exciting about us is we have two mines already beside us that have been permitted in modern day: Victoria Gold's heap leach mine, Hecla's Keno Hill silver mine. Our project already has existing roads on it, existing hydro power lines across it, cell phone, exceptional infrastructure, which is also really important when you're talking about projects that are going to move forward both through permitting as well as to potential development.
Fantastic. Don't Tara, thanks for that intro, and everybody else. If you want to learn more about Banyan outside of this conversation, hit the channel button. We've done a number of interviews with Tara, introing the company. Brien Lundin did one recently as well. So make sure to check that out for some more details. Because today, all we're going to talk about is the Met work. And I think they're really, really good results and promising results that could sort of pave the way for development, in my opinion. But Tara, why don't you run us quickly through the highlights, and then we'll break them down a little bit, trying to simplify it as much as possible because it is a fairly technical release.
Great, and I know that I'm going to get lots of technical questions, and we will have some opportunities for people to call and discuss some of the more technical details. But what's really compelling is that we have really robust gold recoveries from three very conventional mining techniques. The CIP-CIL comes in at 91%. The gravity cyanidation flotation comes in at 84%, and the heap leach at 64% to 72%. We know we can continue to optimize these processes. This is phase one, and that's fairly standard, that you come out with what your general processing techniques are, and then you start to look at different things to optimize the project, both grind sizes and things which are focused on increasing recoveries. But then also the other side of it is really doing work to focus on reducing costs, such as reagent consumption, power costs. So it's always a trade-off as you move forward between costs and gold recoveries, because the highest gold recovery is not almost always the most economic project. And a lot of projects, you get to this stage, you narrow it down to one process. We still have optionality moving forward, and that's partly why it takes a bit of time for us. Is some of these processes and tests take a lot of time, but we're also looking at three different processes and really thinking through how we might best optimize them as we move forward.
Run us a bit through the timeline from Met work as well, because it's not like you put it in a grinder, you put some acid on it, and you get a result. Like it takes a bit of time, and I think people need to understand that as well, because especially early stage projects, like you're a little further along, of course. Investors look at it. Met work is like, okay, where are the results? Like, what's your recovery rates? And everybody says, well, we just started the process, right? So, can you run us a bit through the background there, and then we need to talk about, of course, your preferred way, maybe, and of course, where's the optimization potential, of course, Tara?
Well, if you want the whole process on that work, the first part really starts at the site with sample selection and making sure that you get representative samples. This is a very large deposit, 5 kilometers by, or deposits, 5 kilometers by 1 kilometer. And then you need to think about representativity in terms of grades from low grade to high grade, from depth from surface and across the property. So that takes quite a lot of time, and it resulted in us shipping tons of samples to the lab for even this first phase and for the second phase that we're actively have started and is ongoing. So then once you've got the samples to the lab, then they make the composites out of them, and then you figure out which processes you're going to subject them to. Things like heap leaching, when you look at leach times, there actually can be a very long time. If Victoria Gold's heap leach time is 150 days, the standard testing, 72 to 78 days on some column leach tests, but that test, can be 100, 200 days. So it really depends on what you're focusing on. And then all the other work, it's often best to do things sequentially. You get the results of one test, and that feeds into what your, say, for example, your grind size is for the next testing. So it's a fairly complex process, and we've been managing, looking at 3 sets of testing at the same time.
Okay, no, appreciate that as well. Like, and one thing, just for people maybe to wrap their head around it as well. Are there some comparables? Like you brought up Victoria Gold. Of course, there's always that easy comparison. How do the results compare right now? Like, also with some of the other peers as well.
Oh, certainly. There are many projects across the world, and you'll see in our deck, which will go up on our website, that we do actually have both grade-wise and recovery-wise. There's lots of projects across the world. One notable one is, of course, Fort Knox, which is both a combination of a mill and heap leach. It's in Alaska, and similar. It's in the same Tombstone's belt of rocks as well. So that's the great example. Victoria Gold's a great example, but there's also, examples. Kinross's project in Brazil, Centamin's project in Egypt. There's quite a few examples which demonstrate whichever of these conventional mining techniques with similar grades to what we have.
No, fantastic. Thanks for clarifying that. And just it's always easier just to simplify as much as possible to understand what is like what it means, right? Because what is the impact of it at all? Like, will this eventually turn into a mine, and what does that look like? A couple of things that jumped out to me in the press release were low sulfide concentration and, of course, non-acid generating. I think we need to break these terms down. What does that mean, Tara? Like, especially the low sulfide concentration, because that sort of means, is it refractory, is it non-refractory? In the end, it leads directly to mining cost as well.
Yeah, it has a lot of factors that leads into, and same with acid generating. It's all about what your operating costs, what your environmental requirements would be, how much room you need. So it's all of those are very positive for this project. We're pretty pleased with the results that we have.
And non-acid generating means in general is like it's just easy to recover. You don't have to worry about any nasties or so coming out of that.
Oh,
Nasties meaning anything
that's
that
important for how
difficult.
you can store your tailings,
Exactly.
or your waste rock, and what happens to that, and what
No,
your permitting might be, and what your long-term obligations might be.
yeah, permitting is the word I was looking for. Like that was sort of the next. I wouldn't say the next question, but I was like sort of where I was hinting at. It's like, how, does that simplify potentially simplify the permitting process a little bit if it's not acid generating? I think that's an answer everybody's looking for.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. And the other thing that's really important for a permitting perspective is that we already have 2 mines that were just permitted in the modern day, really just in the last few years. One's a mill, one's a heap leach. So it really shows that you can permit both mills and heap leach projects in the Yukon. The First Nation of Notchanaik, which is whose traditional territory we work in, they work with both of those mining companies. So that is that's a really key component. Does your community understand the different mining techniques, and how hard is it going to be to communicate? And we're starting with a fairly high level of knowledge about the mining industry.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's amazing. Um, Next steps, like you touched on grind size in one of your answers. I think testing additional grind sizes. So for the novice and for the non-technical person, like what are the next steps? Where can you fine tune and play with the recoveries a little? Or I would say, sorry, not play, but I would say improve on the recoveries as well? What are some of the screws you can, or there's a saying like the screws you can bolt or you can tighten as well there.
The adjustments.
The adjustments, right?
It's grind sizes can both go up and down. When you get your grind size coarser, your operating costs can come down, but your recoveries may or may not come down, which, or go up. Same with grind sizes going down can mean your operating costs go up. Like in a heap leach example, your operating costs might go up, but your recoveries also go up. So there are trade-offs in that, and it's a way to explore, or it's best to explore both coarser and finer as you move into the next phases of testing. And it goes to power consumption. Finer grain, more power. The coarser, less power. So it's all about cost, and that's as you move into the economic studies. The trade-offs that you make in understanding where your test work and what your test work is driving is really important. It's a lot more complicated than most people think, particularly when you're trying to think, okay, well, our goal is to get an economic project. And, that's what I think one of the next phases for us for being re-rated really will be moving from a project that just has a resource. And now we've got a project that has viable potential milling processes that we need to continue to demonstrate are economic. And then once you actually get an economic study, you've really added a lot of value because you've taken that project through that cycle. And we see it even today in valuations of projects. We're currently sitting with about $11 per ounce projects which haven't been demonstrated to have a viable option for processing or economic option. Some of them are $8 to $10 per ounce. Some of them have a lot more ounces than us. And then you look at projects that have, economic study with good IRR, and they're probably closer to $33 per ounce. So there's a real opportunity in this phase of projects to add a lot of value by doing the metallurgical work that we're doing, continuing to show that the resource also is, has some higher grade areas which will drive the economics. And, we've talked about that before as well in the sensitivity chart in our existing resource, that we know there's some higher grade zones in it. And that goes hand in hand with metallurgy because, you get your recoveries, but if you can get your higher grade in your first few years of mining, that also drives your economics. So it's a multi-phase thing. There's the metallurgy, there'll be what we're doing on the geology side as well to really, set us up for when we do our economic study. We're not in a huge rush. There's a lot of groundwork to do before we get there.
That was my last question, Tara. When can we expect the economic study? I know we've had that conversation a number of times, but given this context of conversation, is it going to be after this drill season or is it later?
We're not going to rush it. You want to have a good IRR because that's what everybody's, and NPV, that's what everybody's looking for. In our earn-in agreement, that is the last requirement that we have, and it's due in December of 2025, a PEA. So, we'll keep people posted, but we want to make sure that we do that right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's the whole point. Otherwise, you put yourself in a box and you'll never get out of it. That's it just happens. I've seen it too many times happen in junior mining. So, and this should not happen to you. Tara, thank you so much for the update here on the network. Fantastic results. I think it shows the viability of the project. Of course, there's always little things you can tweak. Really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on, and everybody else, thank you so much for tuning into the Gold Newsletter. This was a breaking news special. We hope you got the update from Banyan and understood how important the metallurgy is. If you want to watch any of the other videos we've done with Tara in the past, Brien Lundin and myself, just click on Gold Newsletter down below and you can find them on our channel. If you haven't done so as well, please subscribe. It really helps us bring companies on the channel as well, and to just share the stories of really good mining companies that we handpicked to be on this channel. Thanks so much for your time. We'll be back with lots more later this week, and also from the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. We have a few interviews pending still. Thank you so much. We'll be back with more.